So that's one of the things I want to talk about the vacation and maybe extending it a little bit further.
What?
Had some time off, and I think I've got some other things, some other cats I want to skin, some other things I want to get into.
Before reality TV turned custom car builders into household names, before the roar of engines became weekly television ritual, there was a quiet, bearded mechanic who didn't talk much, but let his hands do all the work. That man was Aaron Kaufman. And for millions of fans, he wasn't just part of Fast and Loud, he was the soul of it. When Discovery Channel first introduced audiences to Fast and Loud, the formula felt simple. Fast cars, tight deadlines, big personalities. At the center of it all stood two very different men whose chemistry somehow worked, Aron Kaufman and Richard Rawlings. Richard was loud, flashy, and driven by business. Aaron was calm, technical, and obsessed with craftsmanship. Together, they built something special. As the show gained momentum, Aaron's popularity exploded. Fans admired his skill, his patience, and his old-school approach to car building. He wasn't chasing fame or cameras. He cared about metal, engines, and doing things right. Many viewers didn't tune in for the drama. They tuned in to watch Aaron work. And that's why what happened next shocked everyone. At the peak of the show's success, when Fast and Loud was pulling massive ratings and Gas Monkey Garage was a global brand, Aaron Kaufman walked away. No long goodbye, no dramatic on-screen breakdown, just gone. Almost overnight, fans were left asking the same questions. Why did Aaron leave? Did his exit change the show forever? And where did he go after disappearing from one of reality TV's biggest hits? In 2017, Aaron officially left Gas Monkey Garage, and the announcement sent shockwaves through the fan base. To many, it felt impossible. Aaron wasn't just an employee, he was Gas Monkey's backbone. But as with most reality television stories, what audiences saw on screen barely scratched the surface. Behind the polished edits, the countdown clocks, and the dramatic music cues, tensions had been quietly building for years. And Aaron's departure wasn't an impulsive decision. It was the result of mounting pressure, creative frustration, and a growing realization that the show he helped build was no longer aligned with who he was as a craftsman. Around the same time Aaron left, two other familiar faces also disappeared from Gas Monkey Garage: Tom Smith and Jordan Butler. Their exit sparked even more rumors and confusion among fans. Unlike Aaron's departure, theirs was tied to a specific incident that never fully played out on television. According to accounts from those involved, the situation began when a fan living with cystic fibrosis visited the garage. The fan wasn't there to cause trouble. He simply wanted photos with some of Richard Rawlings' high-end cars, including a luxury Rolls-Royce. But things escalated quickly when a confrontation broke out between the fan and a manager. Voices were raised, tempers flared, and what should have been a simple visit turned into a heated argument. Tom Smith attempted to intervene and de-escalate the situation, but instead of resolving the conflict, the aftermath led to both Tom Smith and Jordan Butler losing their jobs. The incident quietly reshaped the garage's dynamic, and while Aaron was not directly involved, the environment he returned to afterward was noticeably different. Trust was strained, morale shifted, and the cracks within Gas Monkey Garage became harder to ignore. Despite being let go, Tom Smith and Jordan Butler didn't vanish from television. They resurfaced on Discovery Channel in a spin-off series called Misfit Garage, which felt like a familiar echo of Fast and Loud. The format was similar: car builds, deadlines, pressure. But the tone was different. Fans who followed Tom and Jordan were relieved to see them back, and many noticed something interesting. They seemed freer, less constrained, more focused on the craft than the clock. And that observation would later help fans better understand Aaron's decision. For years, viewers speculated about Aaron Kaufman's exit. Some believed he and Richard Rawlings had a falling out. Others thought money was the issue. There were rumors of ego clashes, network interference, even secret arguments that never aired. But the truth didn't come from gossip. It came directly from Aaron himself. In interviews after leaving the show, Aaron finally opened up about what pushed him to walk away from Fast and Loud and Gas Monkey Garage. And his explanation wasn't explosive, it was honest. Aaron explained that the show had slowly evolved into something he no longer recognized. Early on, builds were about quality and creativity, but as ratings grew, the pace accelerated. Deadlines became tighter. Projects became smaller. The goals shifted from building meaningful, long-lasting machines to producing fast, TV-friendly content. For Aaron, that shift was painful. He wanted to take on bigger, more complex builds, vehicles that required time, patience, and experimentation. But television doesn't wait. Episodes needed to be delivered. Sponsors needed exposure. And craftsmanship often took a back seat to speed. Creative disagreements began stacking up. Aaron wanted depth. The show demanded efficiency. Over time, those differences created frustration. And when creative tension mixes with business pressure, personal strain follows. Aaron wasn't just unhappy with the direction of the show. He felt trapped by it. The very platform that made him famous had started to limit him. He wasn't building the cars he dreamed of anymore. He was building what fit the edit. When Aaron finally told Richard Rawlings he was leaving in 2017, it wasn't an easy conversation. Despite everything, there was real history between them. They had built Gas Monkey Garage together. They had shared success, stress, and long nights in the shop. For fans who admired their on-screen bond, the news felt like the end of an era. And in many ways, it was. Aaron Kaufman didn't leave because of one argument or one bad day. He left because he knew that if he stayed, he would lose the part of himself that loved building cars in the first place. And that decision, as difficult as it was, would lead Aaron toward a completely different future. After walking away from Gas Monkey Garage and the spotlight of Fast and Loud, many fans assumed Aaron Kaufman would fade into the background. Reality TV has a way of swallowing people whole, and once the cameras stop rolling, not everyone survives the silence. But Aaron didn't disappear. Instead, he did something unexpected. He slowed down. And in that quiet space away from production schedules and network demands, Aaron rediscovered why he fell in love with cars in the first place. Leaving Gas Monkey Garage wasn't about burning bridges. Aaron never spoke bitterly about Richard Rawlings or the team. In fact, he consistently acknowledged how important that chapter of his life was. But appreciation doesn't erase incompatibility. The truth was simple. Aaron and Richard had grown in different directions. Richard thrived in the business of entertainment, branding, deals, and fast-paced production. Aaron thrived in the art of building. And when those two paths no longer aligned, separation became inevitable. Without the pressure of weekly episodes, Aaron finally had the freedom he had been craving. Freedom to choose projects. Freedom to take his time. Freedom to build without compromise. He began focusing on larger, more ambitious vehicles, builds that required months instead of days. For Aaron, this wasn't a step backward, it was a return to authenticity. Fans who followed his post-Fast and Loud journey noticed a calmer, more fulfilled version of him. No countdown clocks, no manufactured drama, just metal, engines, and vision. In later interviews, Aaron emphasized that reality TV had changed the way people viewed custom car building. What audiences saw as exciting time-lapse builds were in reality exhausting marathons for the builders. The stress was constant, mistakes were magnified, and creativity often became a casualty of time. For someone like Aaron, whose identity was deeply tied to craftsmanship, that environment slowly became suffocating. Meanwhile, Fast and Loud continued without him. The show tried to adapt, bringing in new faces and new energy. But many fans felt something was missing. The dynamic shifted. And, while the series carried on for a while, Aaron's absence was always noticeable. His exit didn't just affect the garage, it changed how viewers connected to the show. Aaron's story is often framed as a what went wrong narrative, but that misses the point. Nothing went wrong. Something simply ended when it no longer made sense. In an industry built on staying relevant at all costs, Aaron chose something rare: integrity over exposure. He chose fulfillment over fame. And that choice resonates with fans more than any dramatic TV moment ever could. Today, Aaron Kaufman is remembered not for leaving Fast and Loud, but for what he represented while he was there. Skill without ego. Passion without noise. A reminder that sometimes the most important moves happen off camera. His journey proves that walking away doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes it means growth. And in the end, that's what really happened to Aaron Kaufman. When Aaron Kaufman stepped away from the world of Fast and Loud, the reaction from fans was immediate and intense. Social media flooded with comments asking the same question over and over again. Why would someone walk away from fame, money, and a hit television show at its peak? For many viewers, Aaron wasn't just a cast member, he was the reason they watched. His calm presence balanced the chaos, his attention to detail grounded the spectacle, and his quiet confidence made the work feel real. Losing him felt personal, almost like watching the heart of the show disappear. What fans didn't see at the time was how deeply the pressure of reality television had reshaped the craft itself. Car building, at its core, is a slow and demanding art. It requires patience, experimentation, and the willingness to start over when something doesn't feel right. Television doesn't allow for that. Deadlines are fixed, budgets are pre-planned, drama is expected. Over time, that environment began to chip away at everything Aaron valued about the work. While viewers saw success, Aaron felt restriction, and that disconnect grew wider with every season. After leaving Fast and Loud, Aaron made it clear that he didn't regret his decision. In fact, he often described it as necessary, not because the show was bad, but because it no longer fit who he was becoming. He wasn't interested in chasing ratings or extending a brand. He wanted to build machines that challenged him, vehicles that pushed boundaries, and projects that felt meaningful beyond a single episode. That mindset placed him at odds with the direction modern reality TV was heading, and Aaron accepted that reality rather than fighting it. Fans slowly began to understand this as more interviews surfaced and more time passed. Instead of fading away, Aaron reemerged in a more controlled, intentional way. He remained connected to the automotive world, but on his own terms. No forced deadlines, no artificial tension, just craftsmanship. That shift earned him a different kind of respect, not as a TV star, but as a builder who refused to compromise his values for exposure. Meanwhile, the legacy of Fast and Loud continued to evolve. Without Aaron, the show leaned harder into spectacle. Bigger personalities, faster builds, more dramatic moments. For some viewers, that worked. For others, something essential felt lost. Aaron's absence highlighted just how important balance had been to the original formula. He was the counterweight, the calm in the storm, and once he was gone, that balance was difficult to replace. The relationship between Aaron Kaufman and Richard Rawlings has often been misunderstood. Many assumed their split meant bitterness or resentment, but by all accounts, that wasn't the case. Their partnership ended not because of hatred, but because of evolution. Richard embraced the business and entertainment side of the garage, expanding the Gas Monkey brand into restaurants, merchandise, and global recognition. Aaron chose depth over scale. Both paths were valid. They just weren't compatible anymore. That truth is something many fans eventually came to appreciate. In a world where staying visible often feels mandatory, Aaron's decision to step back felt refreshing. It reminded people that success isn't always about being seen. Sometimes it's about being fulfilled. And that message resonated far beyond car culture. Over the years, Aaron has occasionally reflected on how Fast and Loud changed his life. He never denied the opportunities it gave him. The show introduced him to millions of viewers and opened doors that would have otherwise remained closed. But it also taught him a hard lesson about boundaries. Fame, when tied too tightly to your craft, can slowly take control of it. Aaron recognized that before it was too late. Today, Aaron Kaufman's story is often cited as an example of choosing authenticity over longevity in entertainment. He didn't cling to the spotlight. He didn't attempt to recreate the same success under a different name, just to stay relevant. He focused on projects that mattered to him, surrounded himself with people who respected his process, and reclaimed the joy that first drew him to cars. For fans who still ask what really happened to Aaron Kaufman, the answer isn't dramatic. There was no scandal, no betrayal, no sudden collapse. What happened was quieter and more powerful. Aaron listened to himself. He recognized that the version of success he was living no longer matched the one he wanted, and he acted on that realization, even when it meant walking away from everything he had built in the public eye. In the end, Aaron Kaufman didn't lose anything by leaving Fast and Loud. He gained clarity, he gained freedom, and perhaps most importantly, he gained ownership over his craft again. His journey serves as a reminder that sometimes the bravest move isn't staying and enduring. It's knowing when to leave and trusting that the road ahead, even if less visible, is the right one. That's not just what happened to Aaron Kaufman. That's who he chose to be.